Sit down. Let me tell you about a man named Darius and what a man named Chef Renaud did to him on a Friday night in front of 12 people like he was nothing. "You'll never cook again." That's what Renaud said, loud enough for everyone in that kitchen to hear. Loud enough for the dishwasher in the back to stop what he was doing. Loud enough to follow Darius out the door and down the street and all the way home. "You'll never cook again." Darius didn't respond. He untied his apron, folded it once, set it on the counter with the particular care of a man who refuses to let anyone see him break, and walked out. Now, let me take you back, because you need to understand what Darius carried into that kitchen before you can understand what he built when he left it. Darius had been cooking since he was 9 years old. His grandmother's kitchen in Atlanta, cast iron skillets, Sunday mornings, the smell of something good, always in the air. She had taught him that food was never just food. It was how you told people they mattered. How you said welcome. How you said, "I see you, and I'm glad you're here." He had carried that with him through culinary school, through 3 years in Paris, through every kitchen he had ever worked in. He was 38 now, single father, one son, Marcus, 11 years old, who was sitting outside in Darius's car at this very moment, waiting to be picked up after his father's shift. Darius had been at Maison Renaud for 4 years, executive sous chef, the second highest position in the kitchen, the man who arrived first and left last, the man who covered Renaud's mistakes so smoothly that most of the staff didn't know they were mistakes. That Friday night, a critic from a national food publication had come in unannounced. The kind of visit that made or broke reputations. The lamb had been Darius's dish. The critic had asked to compliment the chef. Renaud had taken the credit. And when Darius, quietly, professionally, mentioned to Renaud afterward that the dish had been his, Renaud had looked at him across that kitchen in front of everyone and smiled. "You'll never cook again," he said. "Not in any kitchen that matters. I'll make sure of it." Then he fired him, on the spot, on a Friday night, with Andre waiting in the car outside. Andre was still awake when Darius got to the car, 11 years old, backpack on the seat beside him, phone in his hand. He looked up when his father opened the door, looked at his face, and put the phone down. "Dad, put your seatbelt on," Darius said. He started the car, pulled out of the parking space, drove 3 blocks before he had to stop at a red light and grip the steering wheel with both hands just to keep them still. Andre said nothing. He had learned somewhere along the way when his father needed silence and when he needed something else. Tonight was a silence night. They drove home without speaking. Darius made dinner. Simple, rice, beans, the kind of meal you make when your hands need something to do and your mind needs to be somewhere else. Andre ate without asking questions, cleaned his plate, put it in the sink. Before he went to bed, he stopped in the kitchen doorway. "Whatever happened," he said, "you're the best cook I know." Then he went to his room. Darius stood at the sink for a long time after that. The next 3 weeks were the hardest. Renaud had done what he promised. Phone calls not returned, emails left on read, doors that had always been open, quietly, suddenly, closed. The culinary world in this city was smaller than it looked, and Renaud's name carried weight that Darius was only now beginning to understand the full size of. 2 interviews, both canceled the morning of. One callback from a hotel kitchen that would have been a significant step down, rescinded without explanation 2 days later. Darius updated his resume, applied to 12 positions, heard back from 2. Neither led anywhere. He had savings, enough for 4 months if he was careful, 5 if he cut everything that wasn't essential. Andre needed new shoes. Darius bought them anyway. On a Tuesday night in week 4, after Andre was asleep, Darius sat at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and wrote 3 words at the top of the first page: "My own kitchen." He had thought about it before. Every chef did, but always as a someday thing. A distant idea that lived in the future where things were easier and risks were smaller. Someday was gone now. All he had left was now. He wrote for 2 hours. The concept, the menu, the neighborhood, the kind of restaurant that his grandmother would have walked into and immediately felt at home, but with technique and precision that would make the best critics in the country lean forward in their seats. He wrote until his hand hurt. Then he looked at what he had written, and for the first time since that Friday night, he felt something other than anger. He felt certain. The restaurant was called Soil, not a fancy name, not a French word or a chef's surname or anything designed to signal exclusivity, just a word that meant where things grow, where everything starts. Darius had found the space in a neighborhood that most fine dining chefs wouldn't have considered. A former hardware store, exposed brick, concrete floors, high ceilings. The kind of bones that took work to see clearly but were extraordinary once you did. He had used almost everything he had saved. Andre helped him paint on weekends. Didn't complain once. Soil opened on a Thursday night in March with 14 tables and a menu that changed every week based on what was freshest, what was in season, what Darius felt needed to be said that particular week through food. No reservations the first month. Walk-in only. Word moved slowly at first, then faster. A food blogger came in on week 3 and wrote something that got shared 300 times overnight. A local paper sent a critic in week 6. She gave it 4 stars and described the food as the most honest cooking she had tasted in years. By month 2, there was a wait list. By month 3, Darius had hired 4 more staff. Now, before I tell you what happened next, I need to hear from you. Have you ever been told you were finished, that you'd never make it, by someone who turned out to be completely wrong? Drop it in the comments. Because the call that came on a Wednesday morning in month 8, Darius almost didn't answer it. He didn't recognize the number. He almost let it go to voicemail. Mr. Darius Coleman? Speaking. This is the Michelin Guide North America. We'd like to speak with you about Soil. Darius was standing in his kitchen when the call came. Wednesday morning, prep time. Andre's backpack still by the front door from the night before. He sat down on a crate of vegetables, stayed there for a while after the call ended. Then he got up, washed his hands, and started prep. There was food to cook. There was always food to cook. The Michelin star was announced on a Tuesday morning in November. Darius found out the same way everyone else did, online at 6 a.m., before Andre woke up for school. He read the announcement 3 times. Then he went to the kitchen and made breakfast. Eggs, toast, fresh orange juice. The same breakfast he made every Tuesday. Andre came downstairs in his school uniform, hair still messy, and sat at the table. Darius slid the plate in front of him. "Dad," Andre said, looking at the food. "You made the good eggs." "It's a Tuesday," Darius said simply. Andre looked at him for a moment. Then he picked up his phone and found the announcement before Darius could say anything. He put the phone down slowly, looked at a father across the table, and said nothing, because some things don't need words. They just need eggs on a Tuesday morning. The culinary world moved fast after that. Interview requests, feature articles, a call from a James Beard Foundation representative, 3 separate inquiries from investors who wanted to help Darius expand. Maison Renault, meanwhile, had not received a star, had not received one the year before either, or the year before that. The national food publication that had sent a critic the night of Darius's lamb dish, the critic who had asked to compliment the chef whose compliment Renault had stolen, ran a piece 3 weeks after Soil's star was announced. The headline was careful, professional, but the implication was clear to anyone who had been in that kitchen on that Friday night. Renault called Darius. Once, Darius saw the name on the screen, let it ring, then set the phone face down on the counter and went back to his prep work. There was nothing Renault could say that the Michelin guide hadn't already answered. 2 months after the announcement, a man came into Soil on a quiet Monday night. Older, well-dressed, sat alone at a corner table and worked through the entire tasting menu without speaking to anyone except to thank the server after each course. At the end of the meal, he asked to speak to the chef. Darius came out of the kitchen in his apron, the way he always did. The man extended his hand. "My name is Bernard Okafor," he said. "I was a friend of your grandmother's. She used to talk about you. Said you were going to feed the world someday." Darius looked at him for a long moment. "She was right," Bernard said simply. Darius shook his hand and went back to his kitchen. Darius never spoke publicly about Renault. Not in interviews, not in profiles, not in the long feature piece that ran in a national magazine 8 months after the star, the one that traced his journey from his grandmother's kitchen in Atlanta to the corner table, where Bernard Okafor had eaten through an entire tasting menu and remembered a woman who had seen all of this coming decades ago. He was asked about it once, directly. A journalist who wanted the conflict, the drama, the before and after of what Renault had done. Darius thought about it for a moment. Then he said, "That kitchen taught me what I didn't want to be. That's worth something." And moved on to the next question. That's the thing about men like Darius. They don't need the person who doubted them to witness what they built. They don't cook for revenge. They don't build for validation. They build because building is what they know. Because somewhere in them, in the part that learned to cook in a grandmother's kitchen on Sunday mornings, they understood that the real work was never about proving someone wrong. It was about getting it right. For Andre, for the 14 tables, for every person who walked through the door of Soil and sat down and felt, without knowing exactly why, that someone in that kitchen had cooked this meal specifically for them. That was the point. That was always the point. Now, I want to hear from you. Has someone ever told you that you were finished, that a door was closed permanently, and you found a way to build your own? Tell me in the comments, because Darius's story belongs to every person who has ever been fired, dismissed, or laughed at, and decided that the last word wasn't theirs to give. Subscribe to Brother Marcus Speaks. New stories every week. Stories about the people who get pushed out of kitchens and build their own. Every single time. With patience, with purpose, and with the quiet satisfaction of a man who let the phone ring, looked at the name on the screen, set it face down on the counter, and went back to his prep work. Because there was food to cook. There was always food to cook.